So I went to Popeyes, got hired on at Popeyes Fried Chicken, and it was a 3 mile walk one way. So I would get off the school bus in the evening and then change clothes, and then walk 3 miles to Popeyes. And I can remember vividly how when I was walking to Popeyes, I would have these conversations with God and saying, I know you're going to take me out of this place. I know you have a better place in mind for me, a better lifestyle in mind for me. And I think that was from my mom just teaching me, from no matter where you're at, you have to have a real strong spiritual foundation, because that's what brought me through it.
We would like to thank our title sponsor, B1 Bank. B1 Bank knows that entrepreneurs like you are always thinking one step ahead. So you need banking solutions that can keep up. It begins with lending. Does your business need working capital or financing for new equipment? How about a real estate or a construction loan? Good news, the B1 lending team is ready to learn your goals and help you find the best lending option available. Now let's talk about uncomplicating your daily cash flow. B1 offers a full array of treasury management services that let you collect funds faster, pay funds more efficiently, and access your information with powerful online tools. Most importantly, B1 understands the value of working with local nonprofits to build a stronger community. They believe in giving back through hands-on involvement with their B1 Community Outreach Program because it's simply the right thing to do. B1 Bank. Be uncomplicated. To learn more, visit b1bank.com. Equal housing lender, member FDIC. Hello, I'm Andrew McClendon, your host of the Next Entrepreneur Podcast. We're here today in the Propel Production Podcast Studio in Baton Rouge, and we welcome our guest, Mr. Craig Stevens, owner and CEO of Genesis 360. Craig, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So you've been getting so much amazing recognition lately, and it's been fun to watch, and I want to dive into that. But I wanted to start by seeing if you could tell us who Genesis 360 is and what it is that you guys do.
Yeah, Genesis 360 is a one-stop shop facility maintenance company. We have 4 divisions. So we have construction, which is mostly horizontal construction, so a lot of work on the levee with the Army Corps of Engineers, flood walls, remediation projects. Our second division is ground maintenance. So we do lawn landscaping. We do snow removal in the north at Annapolis, at the Naval Academy. And then we have building maintenance is our third division. So that's everything from janitorial to roofing. So everything inside the building and the roof. And then the fourth division is one that I just started a few months ago, and that's our IT division. And my degree is in IT, and so there's a lot of capital coming down with the infrastructure money for IT projects, broadband, and in the federal space, that's such a large area as well. So we decided to get into the IT sector. So just kicking that off, and that's going to be fun, especially the cybersecurity portion.
My goodness. So how many employees do you have now?
Today we have 68.
68. Yep. And where all do you work geographically?
So wherever we're needed. Today, we're, of course, here in all over the state of Louisiana, and then in Houston at NASA Space Center. We have a 3-year contract there. We're in, as I mentioned, the Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. We're in Virginia and Richmond with the Veterans Administration. Fort Lee, Virginia. Still in Denver, Colorado. We've been in Denver for a long time with some shopping centers. And I think that's pretty much all the states we have. Well, we have Texas, I'm sorry. We have another part of Texas. We have Lubbock, Texas. We have a shopping center there that we cover. So basically, most of my revenue is on the federal side. Right. And so it's for us, it was fish where the fish are biting. and the federal space is a large. It's not even a pond; it's an ocean. It's a large ocean because they're the largest manufacturer or supplier, purchaser of goods and services. And that's kind of where we went into. And we have a lot of commercial projects here in our own backyard as well. And that's where we're growing at. There's a lot of opportunity here locally that we're tapping into.
Fantastic. So in a relatively short period of time, you've had really explosive growth, and that's why you've received a lot of recognition. So last year, you received the LED Leadership Growth Award for Louisiana, right?
Yes.
A couple of months ago, you received the Baton Rouge Business Report's Company of the Year. A fantastic recognition. I was there that night. I sat at the table right by you. And a couple of comments on your acceptance speech there. I mean, it was really very interesting how you shared, your vision for the future and how bold that vision was. I mean, it was memorable to hear you talk, but also you did a great job of talking about the role that your team played. You made it very clear you didn't get where you are today by yourself, and the role of your family and that. So that was really cool, and I was proud for you.
Thank you.
Proud of you.
Yep.
And then this month, you were recognized as a Business Person of the Year from the U.S. Small Business Association. This is a big deal. I mean, so tell us about that.
I'll start with LED's award, Leadership Growth Award. And LED is such a phenomenal organization when it comes to supporting small businesses. They have it's in their DNA to be able to help. It's not something that is a checkbox for them. We truly want to help organizations grow, and so just being part of their CEO roundtable, and then getting that award afterwards was just phenomenal. And then you fast forward to this year. With the Baton Rouge Business Report, I got a call from Rolf McCollister's secretary and said, "Hey, Rolf wants to meet with you." And what does he want to meet with me about? And she's like, "Well, can't tell you, but just let me know what some dates that work for you." And so I sent her some dates, and so I walk into the conference room, and he's sitting there, and there's someone else sitting there, and from Junior Achievement, Paula Dawson, and he said, "I just want to congratulate you on winning Company of the Year for Baton Rouge Business Report." And I'm said, "I didn't apply for that," So the point is that to be recognized for something that you didn't really knew existed, right? And for us, as I mentioned, in my speech, it's about we have our heads down, taking care of the customer, and growing the business. And so when we look up and get recognized as Company of the Year for a prestigious organization like Baton Rouge Business Report, that's an honor. That's an honor. And so
the whole event, I mean, they do it just so well,
first class,
and
first class.
It just does justice for the awards that are being given out. Yeah.
And then, SBA, I'm part of SBA with some of the certifications we've had. I'm a small business, obviously. And, it didn't really resonate with me until I think a couple of weeks ago that how big that award was. I got the call from Ted James, who's the region administrator for SBA now. And he said, I can't hold it in. I got to tell you. It's going to come out public tomorrow, but I got to tell you. And I'm like, what? He said, you won Business Person of the Year for Louisiana. I'm like, no way. And I guess the part that I was excited, but the part that really didn't resonate until a couple of weeks ago was that I was competing with all the small business people in the state. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, this is just small pool of SBA folks. It was a larger pool than I thought. And and I was like, that's really good honor. And and again, it's an honor. It's again, it's to be recognized on that level, on a national level. It's phenomenal. And I think for us is just again, God just has his hand on our business and just promoting us.
I loved what the administrator, Ms. Guzman, said, and I'm going to read this because it's so powerful. She said, entrepreneurs are innovators and creators at their core, delivering the products and services we depend on and making our neighborhoods, towns, and cities more vibrant places to live and work. They give their all to achieve their American dream of business ownership, and by doing so advance America's economy and global competitiveness. Our 2022 award winners represent the vibrancy and resiliency of our nation's 32.5 million small businesses. And I look forward to celebrating these small business giants and the positive impact they've had on lives and livelihoods and communities all across America. I mean, that's strong, man.
Yeah, that's great.
That's really strong. But the amazing thing is there were 51 awardees and 50 states and one from District of Columbia out of 32.5 million small businesses. So just such an amazing recognition. So congratulations.
Thank you.
on that. So, I was thinking that with all that recognition, it's great for your business, it's great for your team, but I imagine it's great for recruiting as well. I mean, if there's someone looking to go with a progressive company that's doing good things, that's getting recognized, and that's clearly moving forward, I mean, you've got the stamp of approval on that.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely gives credibility to who we are and what we do. For us, when I'm interviewing somebody for a leadership position, I paint the picture of our vision, our core values, our vision, and I can tell by looking at a person if they really get it, if that really is something that sort of resonates with them, and I think the vision that I have, it's as you mentioned, it's very aggressive, it's bold, but it's something that we are going to achieve. It's not something that I'm hoping to achieve. We're going to achieve it. And having people to be part of that vision and get excited about that vision, it gets me excited. So, yes, it does add credibility to who we are and on a national level, I think, too. So especially when we're talking to, local clients, and we can say, hey, we're SBA business, I'm SBA Business Person of the Year, Company of the Year, and a lot of them have already read about it. And we've had people call us give us opportunities to bid on some jobs and things of that sort. So, it's a blessing. And again, it's just great for the brand.
Now let's talk about how bold in the Business Report award speech you gave. You used the B word. You had a goal of becoming $1 billion business.
Yep.
That is bold.
Yes.
Right. When we're defining levels of boldness, that's how bold your vision is. Right?
Yeah. So, we're a multi-million-dollar company right now, but we're still small.
Right.
And so my vision is 10 years, we become not just a billion-dollar company, a multi-billion-dollar company. And because of the space we in, the things that we do, and that we're so diverse, and the services we provide, that I know it's so much is achievable, right? So I see where a lot of organizations are going with self-performing a lot of the services. So, for example, there's universities and school systems that self-perform a lot of their services, whether it's janitorial, whether it's ground maintenance, building maintenance. Well, that population is aging, right? And I've been saying this for 3 to 5 years. That population is aging. And eventually, they're going to privatize it.
Right.
And it gives us opportunity to go in and be that one-stop shop for maintenance and construction. And it's a cost savings for businesses. It saves on legacy costs. So you don't no longer have to worry about retirement, trip and falls, things of that sort, workers' comp. It's not your employee, so you don't have to worry about it anymore. And if I don't like company X that's doing the work, I can just find another company to do it. So it becomes a no-brainer from a financial perspective, and also from providing quality work employees perspective, because it's getting harder and harder for a lot of these agencies to find qualified people. Especially, you're not going to get a 20-year-old, a 20-some-year-old to go clean the toilets now, or get on a zero-turn lawnmower. So, again, that population is the existing population is aging. So we're just positioning ourselves to be ready when that opportunity comes, for whether it's university, whether it's hospitals, whether it's schools, and it's happening today. It's happening right now.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's dial it back a little bit and talk about you growing up. So you're from Louisiana, right?
From Opelousas, yes.
From Opelousas. Tell us about your childhood.
Yeah, so growing up in Opelousas, very poor environment. Grew up in the hood, as people refer to it, north end of Opelousas. And so I grew up in what's called a shotgun house. And just to paint a picture, it was the front porch. Then you walk in, it was the living room, my mom's bedroom, and the kitchen. And then we had a little small bathroom on the side. So it was, I don't know, maybe 200 square feet or something like that. Wow. And it was me, my sister, and my brother. I'm the eldest. And we all slept in the living room, all three of us. So right next to the TV in the living room. And so I'll tell the story. We had two TVs in our living room right next to our bed. One was a floor model, and the other one was a little small 13-inch. Well, the floor model didn't have a picture, and the 13-inch didn't have any volume. So we had to have them both on at the same time. It'd been okay if it was been reversed, right? But no, we're looking at a 13-inch, and it's the volume. Man. So it just really, gives me a great appreciation for where I've come. But even growing up poor, we had food though. We always had food because we were on government subsidized income. My stepdad was from the country, and he decided he wanted to raise farm animals in our yard in the middle of the city. So we had pigs, we had chicken, we had geese, and kids would make fun of me. My stepdad, he bought me a wagon, not to play with, but to go in the neighborhood and pick up what was called slop, so to feed the pigs. So the neighbors would put whatever food they didn't eat, the leftovers, in a bucket behind their house. And I would go in every day after school with the wagon and pick up the slop to feed the pigs. And so it was tough because, again, kids were making fun of me, and we didn't have very much money so my parents didn't buy me much clothes. So it was kind of wearing the same old thing. And the neighbors down the street, I think I was surrounded by people that collected trash. And so every once in a while I get a decent pair of sneakers from the neighbors. And I remember one time, the neighbor was like 3 houses down. He had some brand new Chuck Taylors that he had found, right? The problem was they were a size 13. I wore a size 8, but I still wore them. And I remember the first day at school on the bus, the kids just ridiculed me so bad. I'm like, it's Chuck Taylor's, Yeah. So anyway, it's those humble beginnings. And then, for me, it was the mindset was, I think from a very young age, how do I make money? How do I get out of this environment? So, I mentioned that everyone around me would seem like I was a trash collector. And my next door neighbor, he picked aluminum cans. He picked them and sold them. So I would go and get garbage cans out of the garbage and smash them and sell it to him at a fraction of the price. And it was based on weight. So smash them down and give it to him, and he would give me like 15, 20 cents. And then he would go sell it somewhere else. And so but I was excited, had a little change. And then So that was my first experience of what I call entrepreneurship.
Yeah. How old were you then?
Probably 11.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was a newspaper guy that 3:30 in the morning he was throwing newspapers at some of the neighbors' house, and so this was the summer. And I asked him, I could never get a summer job like at the city park, like all my friends were getting, and because they knew somebody, and I was like, I applied every year. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do? So the newspaper guy gave me an opportunity to throw newspapers, and so. He had a station wagon, this big guy, and what you had to do is you had to wrap the newspaper in this plastic bag, put a rubber band on it while the car is still moving, and throw it, right? So I think at this point I'm 12. I was just too slow, and I wasn't very, very accurate, right? So I was, I think many times by the time I wrapped the newspaper, we passed the house up because the car is just moving slowly, and you have to be fast,
Right.
And so so I'll end up trying to throw it out the window, and I end up in the ditch or in the back on the top of the car, So I think I lasted a week, and this guy was like, "You're just not fast enough." So anyway, I was like, "Okay, well, that didn't work out." And this was I was getting up at 3:30 in the morning, to go and try to make some money. And my mom was like, she supported me in that aspect of going out and doing that. So I got a little older. I think the next summer I decided to go into more of an upscale neighborhood in Opelousas. It's called Indian Hills. And they had a golf course and all that stuff. So I would go and ask the folks, first of all, I would say, who had tall grass, right? Because either they didn't have a lawnmower, somebody that cut that grass, or they just didn't want to do it. So I go ask them, go knock on the door, hey, and can I cut your grass? And immediately be like, yeah, absolutely. And then my next question was, do you have a lawnmower I can borrow? Because I did have a lawnmower at the time, So surprisingly, some of them let me use their lawnmower. And so, and it was a scary thing too. I'm a little black kid going into this affluently white neighborhood, and I remember I walked to one door, and this guy came out with his gun in his hand, and I remember it like yesterday, and he was like, "What do you want?" And I was like, "Do you want me to cut your grass?" He was like, "No," and slammed the door, and I was like, "Okay." So what do? I go to the next neighbor. Yeah. Just keep it moving because I'm trying to make some money. So I did okay in the summer, and I think I was charging $10. It was huge.
The first memory I have of cutting grass was this family that they would pay us $15. There'd be three of me and my brother and friend would cut this yard, big yard. They'd pay us $15, and the lady paid us in crisp, brand new $5 bills. We would get 3 $5 bills, and I still to this day can smell that grass when I look at a crisp $5 bill. And I mean, walking home, we had to push the mower half a mile to get back home, and I'm like, oh man, this is the deal.
Yeah,
I was loving that.
No doubt.
So when you look back on those days, you were poor.
Yes.
I mean, you just defined, extreme poverty as well as I've heard it defined. When you look back on those days, is there things that you do in your life today that you do or don't do because of how you were raised?
Yeah, I think about some of the values that my mom placed in me. She didn't have money to give me much, but she gave me something much greater, and that was a spiritual foundation. So my first W-2 job, I'm 17 now, and now I can, get a real job. So I went to Popeyes, got hired on at Popeyes Fried Chicken, and it was a 3-mile walk one way. So I would get off the school bus in the evening and then change clothes and then walk 3 miles to Popeyes. And I can remember vividly how when I was walking to Popeyes, I would have these conversations with God and say, I know you're going to take me out of this place. I know you have a better place in mind for me, a better lifestyle in mind for me. And I think that was from my mom just teaching me, from no matter where you're at, you have to have a real strong spiritual foundation, because that's what brought me through it. I could have went the other way.
Yeah.
I could have got involved in the violence and drugs and things of that sort, because it was all around me.
Right.
But having that foundation, I think that's what helps me today. No matter what I'm faced with, business and personal, I know how to shut things down and become centered with God, and let Him give me direction on how to handle things. And I tell people all the time, for me, when I get overwhelmed, I just completely shut it down. And what that means is I go in my prayer closet and I'll leave my phone out, and I may spend 2 hours in my prayer closet. And when I come out, things are so much better than when I went in. And some of the answers that I was looking for, I get them. Some of the problems that existed 2 hours before are no longer a problem anymore. So you cannot put a value on that. And that's what I carry with me today. That's what I try to instill in my family, because I have 4-year-old twins. And so you imagine how different the world is going to be when they're 18, in 14 more years. Yeah. So I want to make sure that those same values are in them, and they are centered on Christ. But that's probably the one big takeaway for me. But also just there's always a way out, right? So there's always a way to get out of an environment that you don't like. And so for me, it was just trying to figure it out, right? So I know you started with money. I need to have money. So what am I good at? I'm a kid. I'm not very good at much, but let's figure out how I can make a few dollars. And I go back to my Popeyes job, and that put me on a whole different level when I got W-2 money,
hourly money.
Yeah,
Come on.
Absolutely. I was a batter man. I was the best batter man they ever had, So I loved
proud of it.
Yeah, I loved it. And I think I became so good that I could pick my days off. I was like, I'll work every day after school, half a day on Saturday, but Saturday afternoon and Sunday, that's my day to do whatever. And started being able to get nicer clothes, but more importantly, being able to help my family. So I remember just giving my mom money, and that, that's a blessing. It wasn't much. It was more than she had, right? So just being able to do those things, and at such a young age, and I think it sticks with me today. And hard work, perseverance, and having a vision will take you so far.
That's excellent. Fantastic story. We will take a break right here and get in a word from our sponsor and pick it up on the other side. We would like to thank MBD Automation for their support of the Next Entrepreneur podcast. MBD Automation is a mechanical install contractor with a program-centric focus. So what do these guys do? They install conveyor systems, VRCs, platforms, singulators, sorters, and all sorts of other types of automated equipment. Who do they work for? They work for systems integrators, manufacturers, and end users in fulfillment centers, airports, mail processing facilities, and projects in the defense industry. MBD Automation works for numerous Fortune 500 companies across the United States and has a list of international clients that they perform work for in the U.S. as well. If MBD Automation can help you on your next project, you can find them online at mbdautomation.com. And we are back with Craig Stevens, CEO of Genesis 360. So you've got your Popeyes job, but at some point you're going to make your way out of Opelousas. How do you get out?
Yeah, so I graduated high school in May, and July 7th I was swearing in the Air Force. And a lot of my friends were going to college, and I wanted to do the same thing. But more importantly, it's like, I need money. I need to get out of this environment. And so, yeah, I joined the Air Force.
Now, how did you pick Air Force?
I don't know. I had a choice between the Army and the Air Force, and I think I'm a little better with my brain than my hands sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, I scored really high on the ASVAB test, and so I was like, this is probably what I want to be. I'm not too crazy about sleeping in the woods and that kind of stuff, you know. So I've had my share of sleeping in bad environments. So let me get a little better environment. So I think it was more of, and they're both great organizations, obviously, but I think it was more of what was better for me, what I thought was better for me, and it's probably one of the best decisions I could have made. And so I joined the Air Force in July of '91, and I remember I had never flown before. Obviously, had never been to an airport, and so I am scared to death. I'm flying.
I mean, that's really interesting. You've never even been to an airport, and you're ready to join the Air Force.
Yeah.
Cool.
So the recruiter picked me up from home, and I remember my mom. She the night before, she just cried, and I don't know if she was happy or just excited to get rid of me. I don't know which one it was. Maybe it was a little bit of both. But I think she was proud that I decided to take that path. And so recruiter picked me up the next morning, dropped me off in New Orleans Airport, and this was '91. So New Orleans Airport today doesn't look like anything it looked like in 1991. So it was rats and things like that, and I was just totally afraid. I was like, I don't know what to expect. I don't know what to do. And so, all worked out.
And
so
you're going away.
I'm going away.
And you're leaving your family.
And I don't know where I'm going to end up at.
Yeah.
Right. So you join the military. You there's a dream sheet, and you pick certain places that you may want to go. There's no guarantee that you'll get any of those places. So I get to basic training to San Antonio, Lackland Air Force Base, San Antonio, and get off this bus, and here's where the games start, right? So it was the what we call technical sergeants in your face screaming at you, put your bag down, pick them up, put your bag down, pick it up, and all those mental games they play with you. And then you shave all your hair off. I did grow my hair back since then, but I decided to cut it off again. But it's all those things that mentally they're preparing you for discipline. And my mom was very strict on me, and so I was very disciplined in my approach with everything I did. But this was a whole different level because in the military, it's so much bigger than you, right? So went through basic training, then had some choices of professions that I wanted. Again, this is a dream sheet. Yeah. So I think I had fireman as my last choice, absolute last choice, and that I got a job as a fireman. So leave San Antonio after basic training. I'm off to Illinois, Chanute Air Force Base in Illinois, a couple hours from Chicago, and so go to fireman school there for 8 weeks, and then I traveled the military to see the world, go outside of the state. And lo and behold, I get stationed right back in Louisiana at Barksdale Air Force Base. That's my first duty assignment.
Okay.
And, it was all in God's plan. I still got a chance to go overseas in Canada and Korea, and I was in the Pentagon in D.C. So I got a chance to still see the world, but got stationed at Barksdale Air Force Base in Shreveport. Again, first job was a fireman. And so we worked 24 on, 24 off as a fireman. And I got married. I was married at 18. No, actually, I was 18 right after basic training. Came home, goodness. Got married, and then a kid on the way. So my wife at the time could not work, and so I went find a part-time job. And again,
you're full-time active.
I'm full-time active
You're
duty.
24 on, 24 off?
24 on, 24 off, yeah. So we had every other day off, and so which allowed me to get a part-time job.
Got it.
And so I I applied so many different places. I would go with my military uniform on, thinking that they will hire me, and everybody turned me down for whatever reason. And I remember I was like, God, this is my last stop. If I don't get a job at this location, I'm not looking anymore. And so I walked. There was a Circle K convenience store right out the north gate of the base, and so I walked in there, and this Italian guy was like, I said, "Are you hiring?" And I'm getting ready to turn out the door because I know he's going to say no. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm hiring." He said, "Come back here, come behind the counter and talk to me." And so his name was Richard Carter, and so Richard hired me on the spot, and I became the third shift cashier. Right, so you don't get any lower than a third shift cashier. So I started working as a third shift cashier, and then Richard taught me so much. This person showed me things that I didn't know about myself, or believed in me more than I believed in myself. And he knew about my background. He knew where I came from. He had eventually met my brother and my mom, and just took ownership in helping me become a better person, becoming a leader in the C-store environment. And so I became a cashier.
But he must have seen that in you, because when you think of a cashier at any type convenience store, you don't typically think of that person's on this leadership growth path, right? It looks, as an hourly gig.
That's correct.
In most cases. So he saw something in you.
Yes. He saw something in me I didn't see in myself.
Really?
And so he said, you can grow with this company, and I'm still active duty in the military, right? So I became assistant manager, and really learned how to do the paperwork, learn the financials, customer service, cleanliness, how to keep a clean store. And I think the cleanliness part, my mom had taught me that, so it was easy.
And I'm sure the military helped with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. But I think my mom more than anything helped me. And just to kind of retrospect, like growing up, it was, as I mentioned, it was me, my stepfather, my mom, my brother, my sister, and then I was like the female of the house. I was responsible for cleaning the house, the oldest, so I was responsible for cleaning the house. And so we all took a bath in the same bath water. So we didn't have hot water. So I would boil water on the stove, this big pot of water on the stove, and throw it in the bathtub. And so my younger sister would go first, take a bath, my brother, my mom, then me. And my stepdad was a mechanic, so he was all early, so he would go last. And then after everybody took a bath, I had to go clean the bathtub, and that night. And so, she structured me to make sure that this is when you're supposed to do certain things, and you just take care of it, and that stuck with me. So I think that and that was discipline, though. That was more of, we look at it as cleanliness, but that was disciplined approach that she was teaching me, and maybe without even knowing it. But the military, yes, it was definitely structure in the Air Force. That is only one way, and it's the Air Force way, So I'm a fireman, working part-time as a cashier, become assistant manager. And then I reached my 6-year point in the military. So I had signed up for 4 years initially. I did a 2-year extension. And then I was like, okay, what do I want to do now? I have a young family. In the military, in the Air Force specifically, 8 hours notice, I had to pack my bags and deploy to wherever. And so that's not a ideal environment, right? But it's what you sign up for. So I said, I still want to be part of the military, but I don't want to do this active duty thing.
Right.
And so I said, I'm going to join the reserves, and I'm like, what am I going to do now with my, full time? And so my Richard Sicardo, manager, said, why don't you become a store manager? And I said, absolutely not. I'm not becoming a store manager. I see all the headaches that you go through, the things that you deal with. And so he said, think about it. So I thought about it, and then gave it a shot, and got my first store, and I loved it. I loved it. It was because
yours.
Yeah, it was mine. Yeah, it was ownership. Right. And he had given me the tools to be successful in that environment. And so I was a store manager for 2 years. And my district manager approached me and said, would you consider being a district manager trainee? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And so district manager trainee, you don't know where you're going when you finish the program. So that's the only caveat, is that we'll train you, for 6 months to a year, but after that, you go where we tell you to go. And I'm thinking I'm all in the military all over again. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're not gonna tell me where I'm going. So anyway, I took the chance, became a district manager trainee, and then opportunity came available in Baton Rouge. And so packed up my family. The company relocated me to Baton Rouge in '99. So had my own little company car. All the fringe benefits that come with being a district manager, being able to go to games and things like that. So
you're on your way, man.
I'm on my way. But I got the stores that I got was the toughest stores in Baton Rouge. So I got all of the Plank Road stores, and I grew up in that environment. But it was still tough. It was tough dealing with those stores. But so I did that. I had 10 stores.
Wow.
And then got promoted to sales manager. 3 years after that, I got promoted to sales manager. So sales manager, basically trying to grow the sales of the business unit. And then also under my umbrella, we were responsible for any remodels, store remodels that we had, any new construction opportunities that we had for stores. So that was all part of my responsibilities. So I got introduced into construction and maintenance and construction.
I see where this is going.
Yeah, phase from Circle K. So 2 years after that, I am being promoted to director of operations. So my current boss gets a promotion, relocates to Florida. I take his position, and I'm in my 20s, my late 20s. And the funny thing is that I had 10. There were 10 other district managers that was part of the team when I was a district manager. And one thing I did when I first got to Baton Rouge as district manager, I asked each and every one of them to spend time with them because I wanted to pick their best practices. And so I spent at least a day or two with them, learn the things that I wanted to pick up in my business, and then in my group of stores, and then things that I didn't want to do. Right. And I think that really took me on a whole different trajectory because all of them had, there was probably 100 years of experience among the 10 of them. And so that really helped me tremendously because my mind was always set on how do I grow? How do I keep moving up that corporate ladder? And I know for me to grow, I had to be the best me that I could be at any given time. And so you don't know what you don't know, right? So I spent a lot of time with them, and then it was a difficult time that when I was promoted to district manager, all 10 of those reported to me. So I'm the youngest come into the Baton Rouge market. They're all teaching me things, and then now they're reporting to me. And so it was, I think they all, most of them accepted me. Of course, some said I should have had that position, right? But I was up at 12:30 at night. I was visiting my stores late at night, and it wasn't to see what was so much wrong, but to go in and talk to the cashiers that was working that third shift, saying, "Hey, I appreciate you. I appreciate what you're doing."
Because you were there.
I was there. I was that third shift cashier,
awesome.
And I could relate to them. So I enjoy doing that. Just going behind the counter at any given moment and just spend time with the cashiers. I love it, and that made them want to work harder, right? So here you have a district manager that, just before I became director, a district manager that appreciates me, right? Yeah. And of course, late at night, that time in the morning, you see things you don't want to see as well happening, but it's part of the territory. Right. So I really, I think that really helped me tremendously. And then became director of operations, had all of Louisiana and Mississippi, 105 stores. And that was exciting too, because it was a whole different level. So as a director of operations, the owners, we were owned by a French-Canadian company called Couche-Tard. And once a year, they'll come out from Quebec, and I had to explain my financials to them. So like you and I are sitting here, I had to do a presentation by store of how we're doing profitability, losses, turnover, all those things. And so it was very intimidating, but it taught me business at a high level. Right. So, I tell people all the time that the things that I went through, chapter 1 of my life was a kid growing up in poverty. Chapter 2 was my Air Force career and my corporate America career simultaneously. And chapter 3 is now. So chapter 1 and chapter 2, they all prepared me for chapter 3. In chapter 1, I learned how to persevere. I learned how to go get what you want and figure out how to be an entrepreneur, right? And back then, entrepreneurship was out of necessity. It wasn't like I had a dad or a grandfather that had a business. It was a necessity for me. Right. Chapter 2 with the military is the fellowship, being a great follower, and then becoming a great leader, because I was enlisted for 15 years. And then I got my degree in IT, and then I became an officer. And so learn how to be a great follower, a great leader, and then corporate America, how to run a business at a high level, all prepared me for this day.
That's fantastic. All right, let's take another quick break there, Craig. Pick up chapter 3 when we get back. I'm getting a word from our sponsor. We would like to thank Modus for their support of the Next Entrepreneur podcast. Who is Modus? Modus is a facility services company that works in the e-commerce fulfillment industry across the United States. What do? They like to say they take it from the conveyor to the dock door. Well, what does that mean? It means that they're building the pick stations with the cable management. They're installing guardrails and bollards. They're putting down floor marking. They're putting up aerial signage. These guys build fencing systems, shelving systems, and racking systems. They also do rack recovery for when there's rack failures. They also install dock levelers and dock doors. Modus also installs ASRS systems, which is automated storage and retrieval systems, as well as other robotics projects. They've worked for the largest e-commerce retailers in the world, and they can work for you. If you need to find Modus, you can reach them online at modusmoves.com. And we're back with Craig Stevens. So we enter chapter 3, which is the very beginnings of Genesis 360. So how did that start?
Yeah, so Genesis 360, the name itself, Genesis means new beginning.
Right?
And 360 means total service.
Yeah.
So 2011, I'm still in corporate America. And I'll back up a little bit. After I became director of operations, I had the opportunity to become vice president, a region vice president. And I would have to have relocated to Kentucky. And at the time, my daughter was in high school. I was raising 2 kids as a single parent, my daughter and my son. And she was in high school, and I was like, I didn't want to take her to high school, didn't want to take her away from her mom.
Yeah.
So I turned down the opportunity. And in corporate America, sometimes when you turn those opportunities down, they just don't come back again, right?
Yeah. You can't.
Yeah. So, but it was another great decision that I made because it was really about my family, more importantly. And so 2011, I'm like, I've been with Circle K for a while now, and eventually we're going to have to either get fired, quit, die. So you never stay in corporate America forever, right? So it's like, what is the next thing for me? I've always been an entrepreneur. I've tapped in real estate, done some investments. And so someone mentioned parking lot striping to me, and I met this guy who had a parking lot striping business. And I said, that's an interesting gig, so, and I started to think about it. Every business has a parking lot, or 99% of businesses have a parking lot. And paint is very inexpensive. And so there's always going to be opportunity to scale. And then paint is very inexpensive, so my margin is going to be very good too. So I actually bought a van. Circle K, every 5 years they would take the company vans and sell them. And so I bought a company van for a couple $1,000, bought me a parking lot striper, and just on my off time, just went stripe parking lots.
No kidding.
And yeah, so it's harder than you think, keeping that straight line.
Yeah.
But it was, I really enjoyed it. And so I landed my first big parking lot job here in Baton Rouge at Segan Plaza Shopping Center on Segan Lane. Yeah. And so I striped the parking lot, and she said the company that owned the shopping center was an out-of-state company, out-of-state property management company. And so she said, "Hey, can you paint our buildings?" And I said, "Absolutely." And then she called back and later and said, "Can you remove signs off building when a tenant moves out?" Absolutely. So everything she asked me, I figure out how to do it. Yeah. And so I'm not a sign company. I'm not an electrician. So I'm picking up the phone and calling someone else and say, "Give me a price on this, mark it up a few dollars and get it done." And so eventually this company asked me to convert a Smoothie King to a GNC at the same shopping center. And I said, "I can't do that. I'm not a licensed contractor." And said anything over $75,000 have to be licensed. So light bulb went off, and I went and got my contractor's license. I went and got my residential and commercial contractor's license. And then that is what positioned me to be that one-stop shop for maintenance and construction. So that company, that property management company, asked me if I can go to Oklahoma and take 2 shopping centers in Oklahoma. And I said, "Yep, we can manage that."
No kidding.
So I'm doing parking lot sweeping. I'm doing lawn service. I'm doing graffiti removal. I am the boots on the ground for them because they're absentee. They're not nowhere there. So I'm that one call, for all their services. And so I picked up that one. Then I picked up one more in Texas, and then the light bulb really went off. I was like, this is a niche market where if I can pick up more shopping centers, I can have all these services that I provide in one central area. And so I started cold calling. I went online and found property management companies. So I landed opportunity with Kimco Realty, which is one of the largest in the world. And they own the Hammond Air Shopping Center on the corner of O. Hammond and Airline. And same model. First started doing sweeping of the parking lots and then painting, and it just grew from there. And then Kimco said, the property manager connected me with a property manager in Denver and said, "I have a good sub here that's doing great work." And so the guy in Denver said, "Hey, can you take 8 shopping centers in Denver, Colorado?" And I said, "Absolutely." I am so thrilled at that point. I'm still in corporate America, right? But the business, I'm just having people out there. So I had a project manager.
You hadn't transitioned out?
I hadn't transitioned yet.
Oh, my goodness.
Because I'm trying to build a business where I can say, okay, I'm out of here now. And so I hired a project manager to handle everything in Denver, Colorado. And so whatever they needed, we would provide the services. And so we grew from there. And then 2014 is when I decided it was time. It was time to leave corporate America. It wasn't the same company I grew up with as most corporations are. The leadership had changed. And so I told my wife a year prior, I was like, "I'm thinking about leaving corporate America." And she was like, "You sure you want to do that?" I was like, "Yeah." And so I can tell she wasn't fully convinced. And so a year later, I said, "Okay, I'm really thinking about leaving now." So I gave him my 2 weeks resignation, had my retirement party and all that stuff. And besides the money we had coming in from the shopping centers, I cashed in my stocks And so I had like 60,000 in stocks. And I told my wife, I said, we got 60K to make it for another year if everything else fails. So it was a little more comforting. And so I left July 3rd of 2014 is when I left Circle K. In November of that same year, I picked up one contract for 3 times my salary. And this was a whole different business that hired me to do the work. And so I went back to my wife and I told her, said, hey, I picked up a really big contract. And I told her how much. And she's like, what took you so long to leave Circle K? I'm like, are you kidding me? It took me a year to convince you that I was doing the right thing. And so, that just gave me momentum to really go after the market, expand and provide, all those different services. And we were doing janitorial service for a lot of businesses.
So look at Circle K when you're director of operations and on that path up to that position. You're dealing with financials, you said, and profit and loss statements and cash flow projections, all that stuff. But when you go into business, now that's your cash.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
What was that difference like in to you? Like, how did that feel to you making that work?
Yeah, I think that was part of the transition for me with what encouraging me to make that to move into becoming an entrepreneur and have my own business. So when I look at my P&L from Circle K, and I look at that EBITDA, or net gross profit, I'm like, that is, my salary is 0.00001% of that bottom line profitability that I'm bringing to the company. And now, don't get me wrong, it's not just me doing all the work, it's the team, right? But that's how I'm looking at it.
Right.
If I can make 2% of that in my own business, then I'm good, right? So that was a motivating factor for me. And Circle K was always focused on cost too. How do we manage costs? And that was the other big aspect. It's not how much money you make; it's how much money you keep, right? So managing cost is something I really learned from Circle K as well, and then scaling. You look at when I first started with the company, we were at 3,000 stores, and now they're over 20,000 stores. Goodness. So it was always a scaling model. Yeah. How do you scale? How do you become bigger?
So 2014 is when you started full time.
Yes.
And then, do you remember the point where you felt like we're going to make a go of this thing? This thing's going to stick.
Yeah. I think the opposite is a bad way of answering. I never thought it would never work. Yeah. So for me, when I'm in, because you have to think about it. During my whole span of my chapter 1, chapter 2, I was focused on being the best version of me that I could be. Yeah. Whether I'm at Popeyes, I'm a batter man. I am the best batter man I'm going to be. When I'm in the military, I'm enlisted now, but you know what? I'm going to act like an officer. So when I get to that level of becoming an officer, I already know how to deal with people, handle people, and just being the best version of me. So I'm always thinking of next level and again, just being the best version of me.
Yeah, dressing for the part that you want to become.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's funny you said that. As a cashier at Circle K, I wear slacks and dress shoes. Third shift, I'm wearing, and so I would iron we had white smocks. I would iron my white smocks, starch them down, because it was always, I'm a cashier now, but eventually I'm going to get to that next level, And so I think it goes back to, my mom just teaching me how to be disciplined in my approach to things.
So how did you get into federal contracting?
Yeah, so 2016 or late 15, one of my friends kept mentioning 8A certification. I was like, what is an 8A certification? And then started digging into it, and it's really it's more of like a DBE certification. Right. And so when I learned about the program and what it's designed to do, I I said, this may be a great opportunity. So the 8A program is designed to, is a 9-year program, and is designed to help you get contracts over that 9-year period, actually over the first 5 years. And it helps you be able to compete with bigger companies at a 9-year mark. So it's a scaling program.
And to work your way out of it.
Yes.
I mean, it's from what I've heard of, you know, it's like an apprenticeship program in a way that they bring you up or give you the opportunities, or however it works, however you'd say that. But you work your way out of the program.
Yeah, you graduate. Yeah. You graduate. So, and it's very, they are very structured in the sense of, you know, year one, okay, you're just getting into the program. So you may they may give you a small opportunity. They may say, Army Corps of Engineers, here's a young 8A firm, let's give him an opportunity. Right. I think I only got one of those. I'm in year 4. I only got one of those. And then after that, you really start fishing for your own food. And when you get to year 4, closer to year 5, they look at your financials and say, okay, you have round numbers $2 million in federal 8A contracts. You need to have the same amount or more in non-federal. Okay. So you don't stay on that same path and get fed, but you have to actually go out and get your own. So it's a fantastic program. It's if it's used the way it should be used.
Yeah. So you picked up, I read recently, a $16 million 5-year contract from the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. That's just that's a huge deal.
Yeah, no, it's a blessing. So we had NASA Space Center. We picked that one 3 years ago, and so this is lawn service. So lawn service, pest control, and that was our one of our bigger contracts we received, and it was
how big is that compound?
4.5. 4.5.
How big is the area?
It's 232 acres.
Yeah, 200.
Yeah,
and this Annapolis one was like 300 acres.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking a lot of grass here.
It's a lot of weeds.
Sure, a lot of concrete too.
Yeah, no, it is, and you know, so getting started, I guess I'll back up. My first contract that I got with the federal government, I made $68 on it, right? So I had been marketing to the government. So when I applied for my 8A certification, it took me a year and a half. And so even while I'm waiting till the certification gets approved, I'm going to these industry days in Dallas and Atlanta and meeting with the contracting officers and the decision makers. And everybody was like, come back and see me when you get your 8A. So got my 8A, and then I thought the windows of heaven would open up all of a sudden. But that's not how it works. I still had to go and shake hands and kiss babies. So I still had to go in there, and because everybody's asking, where's your past performance? And I know you want to do these construction projects, but show me your past performance. And so I got my first small contract. It was to provide dumpsters to the Army Corps in New Orleans. And I made $68 on it. You know, I'm excited because it's my first contract. I didn't lose money, you know, because there's always a shot in the dark. How do I bid this? Am I going to make any money? You don't want to come in too high on your first contract because you're like, you know, you're afraid that they might not give you another opportunity. And so next contract I got, it was a few $100s, and that was to transport some equipment. And then in the first year of my 8A program, I got a $3.5 million contract to build a flood wall in downtown Baton Rouge. And so that was just persistence with, you know, here's who I am, here's what we do, and just kind of building relationships in a sense. Mm-hmm. So it's been on an upward trajectory since then. We got the next big one was NASA Space Center, and then Naval Academy, and then we have a contract that's very near and dear to my heart in Richmond, Virginia. It's with the Veterans Administration. It's a long contract. However, we provide burial services for veterans that have died. So that's part of the contract, and it's very special to me. Being a veteran and be able to provide burial services is tremendous.
That is not what I expected to hear you say.
Yep, absolutely.
That is amazing. Congrats on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Look, as we start to wind this down, I know that you and I could talk for a really long time. You're number one, you're a great storyteller, but you've got some great stories to tell. I wanted to ask you to see if you could define your leadership style. When you look at Genesis and you look at how you're leading that company on this growth trajectory, what is your leadership style?
Yeah, I think first it starts with our core values. Integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. And those three core values is what's been inbred in me through my Air Force. That's the Air Force core values. And number one, if you don't have integrity, then a person won't last very long in our company, because that is so important to me, and and to everyone, to the client especially. So service before self. In the military, you're putting your service before yourself, right? You're putting your life on the line before for your country, and that's what I tell my people. It's providing a service to our customer before things that we need to take care of for ourselves. And I'll give you an example. It was Valentine's Day one year when I first started the company, and my wife and I are eating out on Valentine's Day in Segan Plaza Shopping Center. The property manager called me and said, "Hey, the fire alarm's gone off, and I need someone to go take a look at it." So, wife, let's pack up. Let's go see what's going on. But I can't say that, hey, I'm having Valentine's dinner with my wife. No, we take care of the customer, and it always works out. So service before self, and then excellence in all we do. It's anybody can do a mediocre job, but when you build relationships and provide a great service, the sky's the limit.
Final question. I wanted to ask you your why in all of this.
Yeah, it's so much, but the core of it is, number one, being able to provide, as I just mentioned, great service to my customers, allowing them to do what they do best and letting us do what we do best. Number two, for our employees, my team, during COVID, we had our best year during COVID year. We doubled our 2019 revenue. And I want them to, whether it's the next pandemic or the next catastrophe, whatever happened, to be comfortable knowing that they have a really good place to work and that I'm going to do everything in my power to take care of them. And so the third thing is, coming from an impoverished environment. My mom was poor. My mom was poor. Everybody around me was poor. So how do I break that generational curse? How do I ensure that my kids and my kids' kids will never have to go through what I went through as a young kid? And so that's a really big part of it. And then you look at, more on a global level. I realized a long time ago that as a business owner, whatever we do is not even about us. It's always bigger than us. And so the three things that I really am passionate about and want to change in the world is, number one, human trafficking. How do we stop human trafficking? How do our kids get trafficked? How does that happen? How do we allow this to happen in America? How do we allow this to happen in Louisiana, which has one of the highest human trafficking rates in the country? The second one is childhood hunger. Again, I grew up very poor, but we always had food. I can't imagine growing up in the environment that I grew up in and not having food. That's a whole different level, right? So how do we minimize childhood hunger? My wife's a fourth grade teacher, and when she told me that, sometimes the meal that the kids eat at her school is the only meal that they'll eat. How does that still happen? How do we fix that? And the third one is I think helps the other two, is how do we keep marriages and families together? Divorce rate is over 50% in America. So how do we keep families together? How do we keep husband and wives together? And, oh, by the way, if we do that, that'll help the childhood hunger. Oh, by the way, that will help the reduce crime across the nation. And so those are the three things that's really near and dear to my heart. But all those, what I just mentioned, is why I get up every day.
Yeah, man. Good stuff. Look, it is a complete honor to talk to you. I mean, your story, your path is just inspiring, and I'm grateful for you.
Thank you. I
I'm glad
appreciate
you're
it.
in our community and leading in the way that you do, and I wish you continued success in everything that you do, and best of luck.
Thanks for the opportunity. I greatly appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Oh, my goodness. That episode was emotional. Craig, it's such an incredible story and is such a good storyteller. The thing, you never want to bet against Craig Stevens. He is going to accomplish what he wants to do. He was going to get out of poverty. He did it. He was going to get a college degree. He did it. He wanted to serve in the military and become an officer. He did it. He wanted to grow his career through corporate America, and he did that, becoming director of operations. And now he wants to grow Genesis into a multi-billion-dollar company. He will do it. One of my favorite parts of this story is when he talked about his spiritual base. He learned from his mother growing up, and when times were tough, through his childhood, through his walking to the Popeyes, or through his whole career afterwards, he could always pull himself back into his prayer closet, or his center on what was truly real and important in his life, and everything would peel away. Man, there's so much to learn from this guy. I just love this conversation. So we really thank Craig for coming in and sharing his pearls of wisdom. And we appreciate you guys watching. We'll catch you next time. We would like to thank our title sponsor, B1 Bank. They can be found online at b1bank.com. The Next Entrepreneur is produced by Propel Productions. You can find more information at propelyourstory.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the Next Entrepreneur podcast and hit the bell for notifications. You can also follow us on social media. The links are in the description below.